Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Shake Sales. Today we are going to be talking about in-person events, and we have the perfect person talking to us about it. It's Mike Wander from SaaStr. So Mike is the new partnership sales leader. He is a veteran that recently transitioned into a sales role at SaaStr in May of 2022. And he's already closed over $1 million in revenue and has just been creating, awesome content around prospecting, emailing, and then of course, in-person events too. So super excited to have you here today, Mike. Do you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think you covered a lot of it, but it's nice to be here, Maggie. Thanks to Mailshake for putting this on. I think the biggest thing outside of like work that defines me is I'm a huge sports enthusiast. I love to talk about sports, football by far being the favorite. And then I would say that I'm an avid cook. I like to cook. So some fun facts.
Favorite team and favorite meal?
Okay. Favorite team, 100% hands down the Denver Broncos. Even though I'm from Cincinnati,
yeah,
I'm a big Champ Bailey fan. I love defense. And so that's how I fell in love with the Broncos. And then my favorite dish, it's pretty classic, but it's just a filet mignon on the wood burn grill.
Sometimes those simple recipes are the best ones. So totally agree there. Cool. So yeah, let's get into it. I know we were talking before this about in-person events and how, they're coming back in style, which is awesome because, COVID's not over with, but, we're kind of coming out of it. People feel safer to go to in-person events, which is awesome. It's, we're seeing a lot of faces, and I know people are just doing meetups with their companies all around. So, you work at SaaStr, which hosts one of the world's largest in-person SaaS events for CEOs and co-founders. And so, yeah, it is happening. It's becoming more regularly. I hear people more talking about it on LinkedIn, but what type of value do you feel like sales leaders get from meeting clients or prospects at these in-person events?
Yeah, it's a loaded one, but I mean, really, you can bring it down to three things, right? Like sales leaders, when they meet with clients and prospects, I mean, the obvious one is that you can forge champions out of those people, right? Mm-hmm. Because for so long, we've all probably 2-3 years now, everyone's just been doing business over Zoom, right? Like 7-figure deals, 6-figure deals over Zoom. A lot of the times that wasn't getting done unless you were meeting them in person, and walking into a board meeting, right? Kind of thing. And so now it's like when you go to an event like SaaStr Annual, right? Like we just had it. You saw all these people, like for instance, I can call it G2. G2, probably 90% of the people that were there were G2 customers. So people could say, well, why would they sponsor, right? Because like new business. Well, no, the answer is like you go to an event to not only like have a presence for your brand, but to also meet with some of those people that are already clients. And one of the things that you can do when you're there is you can ask them some of those hard questions. Right. It's easier to read somebody in person and ask them a harder question in person, such as like, hey, is there anything that you wish we were doing for you that we're currently not doing? Bring that back to your product team. You know what I mean? Like that's valuable. Or, hey, if you're a sales leader, right? Like whenever you were going through this sales process with us, like when you were on your purchasing journey or your buying journey, like was there anything that you wish was a little bit different or that we could have done better to make your life easier? Right. It just gives you a little bit of some of those insights. And then when you're talking with prospects, I mean, it's a perfect time to walk around with them, have a walk, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't do that over Zoom.
No.
And just ask them, right? Like, hey, what's going on? Like, what are your guys' actual objectives? Like, how can we really help you? Right. Like you talk over Zoom, but it's like, look, this is what we can provide to you, but is this really the right thing for you? You're building a relationship. You're forming a partnership from, Ike to Maggie. Of walking around, seeing you. And it's actually pretty cool because like, you don't know how tall I am. I don't know how tall you are kind of thing. And so you get to like see these people in person and it's like this shock and you'd think it'd be awkward. Like, don't get me wrong. I thought it was going to be awkward at first, but I can't tell you, like, there probably wasn't a single person I met that it wasn't like hugs,
that's
dabbing
awesome.
people up, giving people high fives, handshakes like crazy. I mean, everybody was just ecstatic to finally be around each other. And to your point of like events growing, SaaStr last year, 2021, was 5,000 people, right? which is pretty good considering, COVID was still like primarily talked about. It was at the forefront
Yeah.
of everybody's mind. It was our first time going outdoors. And then for fast forward to this year, we went from 5,000 to 10,101 people, right? Like double the amount, double,
Yeah.
right? And it's
Oh my
because
gosh.
people value that. They saw the value from last year. They're like, we need to
Hmm.
be here. We need to get back in person. We need to be putting our brand at the forefront of all of our customers' minds.
Hmm.
I mean, it's hard, right? It's COVID, it's economic times are hard, but the companies who are leading from the front are the ones that are still getting the brand out there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And you brought up a good point. It's like, we heard a lot of these conversations in the height of COVID of like, hey, are these events going to change like for forever? And I feel like it almost like just went the opposite way because, I feel like when we were all sitting in COVID, we were craving that in-person meetup and everything like that. So you're right. Like that's amazing that you had, double the people there this year, but in a way, I'm not surprised because we all remember the feeling of being in COVID and craving an in-person event, craving, being in person with someone. And it's funny. And I just recently met up with coworkers. So a different scenario, but when we were together, it was funny. Everyone was like, I didn't realize how tall you were to me because we all think we're just the same height or something. But the difference is, and this is just from a coworker standpoint, is we're on Zoom with our clients or coworkers or bosses for, let's say, like 20 minutes. A lot of that conversation is straightforward to the point. Hey, this is what we need to talk about in our meeting. And of course, there's small talk. Like we do awesome things like icebreakers in our meetings and things like that. But there isn't like those random things that happen in daily life in person, like tripping over a chair
Oh,
or
that happens.
yeah,
Or a
yeah,
wire on the ground. Yeah.
exactly. Or like what you ordered for lunch. Like I don't know most of those things unless I meet with that person in person, and it's a lot easier to build rapport. And like you said, ask those difficult questions, which I didn't even think about it that way. I thought more of just like, hey, we're going to be building more of this relationship. But yeah, I didn't even think about it's an easier time to ask those.
Yeah, and I think you brought up two great points, and one of them was definitely one I wanted to hit on, and that is a lot of people who come to SaaStr, they like our like, customers or attendees, right? They
Hmm.
actually find it useful because it's for a lot of them the first time they ever get to see their team. Like a
Yeah.
lot of
Hmm.
the people who come have never met their own like what I mean, teammates before.
Team.
And so like not only are you there to do business, but you're also there to like find out, is this person like could they be my best friend that I never really figured because like you said on Zoom we just talk really about work and like maybe one or two touch points. But it was cool because you got to see everybody like hang out with their it was almost like their family, right? Like their work family that
Hmm.
they had been just separated from and they come together and it's like this just I don't know, like big, powerful, strong moment. And ultimately, I mean, it makes the team's performance better, right? Like you go to an
Yeah.
event, you see everybody, you work together, and then when you leave that event, it's just so much more natural to come back together and achieve goals together.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you learn more about that person. I mean, obviously, you can learn about people on Zoom and in your meetings, but you're going to learn so much about that person with being with them for 1 or 2 days there, like your coworker. And that camaraderie is a bit easier to form there when you're in person or within a group in person. Because, I mean, I even think back to you probably did like Thanksgiving or Christmas calls with your family over Zoom. And I'm like, I mean, it's nice that we can all see each other. I'm very thankful for Zoom. Super. It's how I do my job every day. But I was like, this is not that much fun
No,
because
right?
we're used to just like being in person and with your family. It's just kind of like hanging out and doing things like that. But I digress. We don't have to get off topic to there or relive that. I'm glad I'm going in person for holidays this year. But, one thing I will say though, like for me, and I talk about it with my friends, is I'm super intimidated to meet some of my clients in person. Like meeting your team is one thing for sure, but I actually have never been in a closing role in person. I've always done my full sales cycle, at least, making cold calls as an SDR and then over Zoom. So, and I know other people feel that way. I've talked with friends, colleagues, things like that, a lot of the sales that we've been doing the last, almost 3 years has been over Zoom. Like could you give us a few tips for someone who might feel like me, who's intimidated to go to these events or be there, of, how to navigate an in-person event, how to make it, maybe how to feel less awkward when going to them?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, first, I would start off by saying prepping for an event is the right
Hmm.
mindset, right? Because if you show up, regardless of it, as it's with a team, right? If you're a sponsor or you have a booth, or if it's as an attendee, if you don't
Hmm.
prep, you're going to be lost when you first show
Hmm.
up, right? Like the first thing you can do is simple things, like go to the event website, go look at
Hmm.
who's going to be there, the sponsors, right? And if you're there as an attendee and you would like to go meet with some of your clients, like you're not going to have a booth, but you want to go meet with some of your clients and you see like, oh, for instance, Mailshake is sponsoring. Okay, well,
Hmm.
great. I want to go walk up there and I want to go say hi to Maggie because I bought from her or, she
Okay.
bought from me. And so one of the things that I would do at that point is I would email you and I would say, hey, Maggie, like subject line, are you going to SaaStr?
Hmm.
Right? Like that'll get your attention because you probably already know that Mailshake's small enough. You would know probably, hey, our company is sponsoring there.
Yeah.
Um, and then, I would just say, hey, Maggie, like had a great time buying or, working with you. I would love to meet up and put a face to, or I guess you can't say a face to the name because it's not just email, right? But like I would just love to meet
Yeah.
up and say hi and connect in person,
Hmm.
right? Like when's a good time for you, or is there a specific day that works best for you? And then
Yeah.
typically you're going to get a response back that says, oh my God, yeah, for sure. Like come say hi. Like
Hmm.
absolutely anytime. You go to their booth, go grab some swag, go say hi to them. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? You're probably going to be greeted with a hug, like just being realistic. Like I said, 99 out of the 100 people I probably met, it was greeted with a hug.
That's
Um,
amazing.
and so like that's little things, right? Like emailing. Another thing that you can do to prepare yourself is just like understand everyone feels the same way as you, regardless as if they've been to in-person events. Like HubSpot was the week before us. Then it was
Oh,
SaaStr
yeah.
and then it was Dreamforce. But like even people who went to HubSpot, when they came to SaaStr, it's a different event, different
Yeah.
people. You know what I mean? Like you could have went to HubSpot, but not everybody who goes to inbound was going to be at SaaStr Annual. And so it's meeting
Hmm.
all new people, doing the whole thing over again. And so you just have to
Hmm.
understand that everyone's a little bit uncomfortable, but you just being yourself and, being who you are as a person is going to go a
Hmm.
long way. And one of the things
Awesome.
that I like to do is I challenge myself not to talk about business for the first 5 minutes of a conversation. So like,
Hmm.
hey Maggie, how's it going? How was the flight in? How's everything been for you? Like what's going on with you personally, And like that
Hmm.
just gets, they understand like, oh, they're not here just to grab swag or to talk business. Like they actually want to know
Yeah.
about me and build a relationship. And that
Hmm.
goes a long way. And then the other thing that I would say is like, make sure when you're at the event, right?
Hmm.
Like, or before you get to the event, you probably look at a map or you at least have some ideas of what's around or like formulate a schedule. I like to block off my calendar. And so like I'll
Okay.
go through my calendar and be like, I want to go to, this speaking session. And then I'm going to
Hmm.
give myself probably 30, 40 minutes and then go to another speaking session
Hmm.
because you'll probably meet somebody at that session or sit next to somebody and start talking to
Hmm.
them and just continue to talk to them, walk around, give yourself some breathing time. And then,
Okay.
I mean, from there, it's just figuring out, what else are your objectives, right? If you're a
Hmm.
sponsor, it's probably to continue to go out there and like work with your team on making a uniform. You should all come uniform. Everybody should look the same at the booth or like
Hmm.
represent the company or something. You don't want to come and just like have everybody dressed in different clothes and people be like, are they like, do they work here
Yeah.
or like, are they customers? How's this work?
Got it. Okay. So, yeah, beforehand, kind of taking a look at a list, who's going to be there, reaching out to people that you may already have connects with, and, or people that you do want to meet. And so, can you just kind of reiterate to us like what you would put
Yeah.
in an email?
Yep, for sure. So if I'm emailing, right, and I know they're going to be at SaaStr,
Hmm.
like I'm probably just going to say, "Are you going to SaaStr?" Right? Because I already know the company is going, but I don't know if that person's
That
going,
person. Hmm.
right? And if I haven't had conversation with you and you're a prospect of mine, right? Like, I'll be at SaaStr.
Okay.
Subject line, something just like the fact that you're talking about SaaStr, so it gives them some frame of reference as to why, they should probably open this email or they're interested in this email.
Hmm.
And then the subject line, I mean, like it's going to be the basic thing that they see, right? But that first line is the crucial piece that you don't want to miss out. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, you could really get creative. It just depends on if you've had a conversation with them in the past or if you haven't. But I would start off and like say we haven't talked before.
Hmm.
I would say like, Maggie, love the work that you and the team are doing. Would be glad to stop by the booth if you'll be there.
Got it.
Period. Enter. And then go into the fact of why I would want to stop by the booth, right? Like
Mm.
not talking about the fact that I want to book a meeting with them, nothing. Like don't talk about booking meetings, don't talk about time, anything like that. Like focus on the fact that you're excited to go to SaaStr, what you're
Mhm.
looking to get out of the conference. So in the body paragraph, I would say, hey, I'm prioritizing, content sessions, meeting with clients, and then walking around the sponsor floor.
Mhm.
Is there a certain time or like a certain day that you'll be working the booth, or that would be best for me to come by the booth and say hi to you?
Gotcha.
Like it's just simply saying hi, right? And then when you get
Yeah.
to the actual event, that's when I would say, okay, go in there, sit down, talk to them, build a champion, forge a champion out of somebody, be friends
Mhm.
with them. And you got a couple of days more than likely, right? Like at SaaStr, it's 3 days. So like
Yeah.
they're not going to go to one day and leave. They're already at the event. So I would focus on like not trying to make the most out of that one opportunity, besides like making sure they understand who you are as a person,
Mhm.
build that relationship, and then probably go back up to them day 2 or day 3 and say like, hey, would love to talk to you more about this. When's a good time for us to connect on? Grab some time on the calendar.
Yeah. That's awesome because you're kind of going through the steps of, like this is obvious, but like when you send an email to someone, for example, like regardless of an event, the goal is not to make a sale in that email. I mean, we hear that preached to us all the time, but I
Right.
love how you put it for SaaStr of like the goal of that email isn't to set up some type of formal meeting with that person at the event. The goal of that email pre-event is to just meet with them, find a good, like casually.
Yep,
I just kind of
exactly.
said the
Like
same
say
thing, but
hi,
yeah,
figure out if
mhm,
they're even going to be there. If they're not going to be
exactly.
there, maybe that's when they say, hey, I won't be there, but this team member will. Okay, well, now you're doing
Hmm.
some natural multi-threading, right? Like
Yeah.
you're actually moving around the team, you're getting introduced to new people, and there you go. It's up to you to take that from there.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. No, I love that. It's like, yeah, that goal. And it's really just to make sure that you're meeting with the right person if they're going to be there. And like you said, if they're not, then you could start multi-threading right from there. But cool. And then, yeah, you gave us some great tips for in person as well. Take a look at a map, make sure to time everything right. Anything else to add to when you're actually there in person?
Yeah, take a look at like the after parties. Typically, an event, people are going to be doing stuff around the event, or there's going to be an
Hmm.
after party, and like make sure you're there, right? Like the
Hmm.
networking doesn't stop at the event. Like the
Hmm.
networking continues throughout the entire time that people are in that area, right?
Hmm.
And so like make sure you're acting accordingly, but like go to the bars, even if you don't want to drink, right? Like plenty of
Yeah.
people didn't drink at SaaStr, but most people went to the bar and grills that the happy hours were at. They grabbed their soda, or they grabbed a coffee, or they grabbed water, and they
Hmm.
walked around and talked to people, right? Like
Hmm.
if someone's judging you for the fact that you didn't drink something there, like that's probably not somebody you want to do business with anyway.
No.
But at the same time, like it's good because the people are there that you want to talk to, or maybe
Hmm.
somebody's there that you didn't know you wanted to talk to, right?
Hmm.
Like don't always just hyper focus on clients and prospects. Like you
Hmm.
should be trying to build relationships out of everybody. Because
Yeah.
if you're a if you're a job seeker, it's a perfect place to go make an impact.
Yeah, absolutely. And you never know. I think sometimes as salespeople, and I'm guilty of it too. And I have to kind of like slap myself on the wrist of like, hey, the goal with talking to every single one of these people isn't to get a sale. And I know it sounds like how I just said it sounds right. But in
Right.
our heads, we do have goals. We do have things that we want to accomplish. So yeah, you're right. It's like these in-person events. You may meet someone that doesn't have anything to do with what you sell. You couldn't partner in any way with them. Like, no value right there. But like creating those connections, I mean, that's the beauty of in-person events is later on you may be looking for a job. So
Yep.
go put yourself out there. And you gave us some great tips of how to do that, Mike. So I really appreciate it, because it even calmed my nerves a little bit about going to in-person events, because I'm like, oh my gosh, if I try to meet a prospect or a lead, I don't think I would be able to say my own name in person. But you definitely helped out there. And I think it is all about the prep. I mean, we prep for so many other things. We send pre-demo emails. We prep before cold calls of what we're going to say. And I've heard a lot of people, and even just me with networking events, I've gone into them blind before, like pre-COVID. And I never feel good walking into the room, because I'm like, I'm not prepared. So
Yeah.
awesome advice. Yeah, I'm preparing there. But let's talk about, we went to the event, we went to the happy hours, things like that, after the event. So what can salespeople do, or, people going to these events do to follow up with people after an in-person event?
Yeah, well, I think for that, right, we have to backtrack a little bit more, because I had maybe missed a couple of things that you could have done if you were fully at the event, right? So the first thing that I would say is, as an attendee, if you are meeting with, say you meet an interesting prospect, or you're going to a booth, look, there's two things that can happen at the booth. You're either your contact is going to be there and you can talk to them, or your contact's not going to be there and you can talk to the team. Highly, highly recommend, regardless, taking a picture of yourself, either with the booth if the team's not there, or with the team at the booth. Then that's a perfect touch point for after the event. And I'll get into what that might look like.
Yeah.
Now, if you're a attendee, it goes the same way. If you're trying to sell to a sponsor, probably not the time to sell to them at the event, right? Because the sponsor's there to, they have to do their selling. They have their own goals. Like, you don't want to be overwhelming. You don't want to be going up to sponsors and trying to sell to them. Like, it's just not a good look. But what is a good look is saying hi, connecting with them, and then taking a picture, right? The same thing that sponsors should be doing with their prospects or with their existing clients. Now, what do you do after the event? Or, well, I guess before we even get to that, what should you do when you're talking to them? You should ask them, what's the 3 key things, right? Like, if I'm talking to you, what are the 3 key things, Maggie, that Mailshake's looking to get out of an event in the future? And then you would probably say something like, well, we would like to build our brand awareness. We want more people to know about Mailshake, and that we're a pretty dominant player in the space. And then obviously would like to get leads. And I would say another thing is, we're coming out with a pretty cool product, but we're not ready to really launch it yet. So maybe something for next year. Oh, great. Okay. Sounds good. I'm going to go into my notes and I'm going to say on my phone after our conversation, and I'm going to go, Maggie and I talked about, these 3 things, 1, 2, and 3. In my follow-up email, I would likely email you, and I would say something like, on the subject, lovely to meet at SaaStr, or you're a gem, something along those lines, right? And then I'm going to say, hey, Maggie, it was wonderful talking to you, or it was great talking to you at SaaStr. Loved your key points on these 3 things that you were getting, like X, Y, and Z, that you were looking to get out of an event. Was wondering if you had a good time in the future to talk about that and how we might be able to help. Right? Like, just still exploratory, still just not asking for a hard time. You're still on that 1 and 2. And that's if you didn't book a meeting on site, right? And then I'm probably going to go, P.S. It was great getting a picture with you and the team. And then I'm going to post that I'm going to copy and paste that picture in the message.
Awesome.
Say you didn't want to use the 1, 2, and 3, right? And you just had a picture with them. I'd probably follow up with the same thing, like, lovely to meet you, or lovely to meet the team at SaaStr. Say you weren't there, but I know you're the person who put on the event. I would say what your team did with the booth was killer, right? Like, they knocked it out of the park. Love the fact that you were a super gold sponsor, because, I looked up what sponsorship level they had at the event. And then I'm going to say, I took a picture with the team, wanted to make sure that you had it. I'm not asking for anything. I'm just simply looking to get a response. When they respond, I'll say, hey, your team mentioned X, Y, and Z. Are these also priorities for you? If so, is it worth chatting? There you go. You know what I mean? Like, it's just natural, fluid conversation. Too many times I think we try to go like initial email. They should reply saying they want to book a time. That happens quite a bit. But your goal should be, let's send this initial email. Let's get thoughts. Let's get additional information from them. And then let's ask if is it worth talking through this?
Hmm. Awesome. I love that. And I love, like almost the usage of the phone is super important at these events from what it seems like of, hey, let me get these quick notes down here that we talked about. Like, what are the three most important things you want to get out of this event? And then taking a picture because it's something a bit like both of those things are a lot more memorable than like, hey, saw your booth at SaaStr, walked
Right.
past it, so like you're actually putting into detail of like, hey, this is maybe a reason why we should talk, or I found something out of this of why we could talk, or just sending that picture over to them. Again, not asking for anything there, but awesome. Yeah,
Well, and
that's great advice.
how many people do you think are saying like what you said? Hey, saw the team at SaaStr, they
Yeah.
killed it, looked good with your booth looked great, and they're copying and pasting a picture that they posted on, LinkedIn or whatever from their company
Hmm.
site, but they were never actually at the event.
Yeah.
Like that's fine. People can do that. Take what's out there and use it to your advantage. But when you were at the event and you include the picture,
Hmm.
it's way more believable. Like off the rip, they're like, "Oh my God, yeah, yeah, this is a good person." Yeah, they know the team, or maybe you leverage one of the people that are at the event. Say you weren't there, but Jeb was there. Hey, Jeb,
Hmm.
I'm gonna email Maggie. Mind if I CC you in? So she it would be great for you to be part of that conversation too. I think you could provide some value.
Yeah.
CCing Jeb, P.S. CC Jeb, had a great conversation with him at the
Hmm.
booth. Told me that it would be a good time to talk. Like, I should probably hit you up.
Yeah. Absolutely. And yeah, it's like I think it just all goes back to two. It's like someone could copy and paste like, hey, saw your booth at SaaStr. But if you actually like go make an appearance, go introduce yourself, it's like another level of personalization, I mean, and you shouldn't even call it that at that point, but like building rapport with people there that you can use later on. That's super important there.
Yeah, and I like to say like you can be as personalized as you want, but like you should at least be relevant, right? And
Yeah.
like you have to still provide relevancy. Like if you just sent me
Mhm.
an email saying, "Hey Mike, great to meet at Aster. Here's a picture." Like,
Yeah.
thanks for the picture. You know what I mean? Like that's probably what you'll get back. I'm not going to be expecting anything else. But so you still have to add some of those bits and pieces or some of those aspects, maybe giving them some kudos and like draw it at least into what you would like to get out of it, right? Like
Yeah.
subconsciously. So for me, I would like to like it's about getting people to the event. So,
Hmm.
right, like getting sponsorship. So it's like I'm always going to probably mention like, hey, the booth looked fantastic. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
can't wait to see what you guys do next year. P.S.
Yeah.
Dropped this picture by. Just got done editing it.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, totally. Personalization and relevance. I preach it all day to the customers I talk to because yeah, having one without the other context to it is super important. And that's why I love those questions that you ask. But cool. Well, for the people listening to this out there, I hope they have a bit more confidence when going to another in-person event because I know there isn't going to be a lack of them in the future. So I appreciate all of your feedbacks, and just as like a quick recap, definitely prepare for the event. Reach out to people over email if you know that they're going to be there. Send them just a quick message. Hey, are you going to be at SaaStr? When you're there in person, don't feel awkward because other people are probably feeling in the same way. And yeah, just put yourself out there. We're all salespeople. We do this over Zoom. It's going to be probably more fun in person to go to happy hours and things like that and be in more relaxed setting. But make sure to get those pictures, get those information, talk with people there that you were meaning to connect with. And then don't forget to follow up afterwards with that meaningful information, that relevance in the email. But awesome. Thanks so much for that knowledge, Mike.
Yeah, of course. And one last hot tip
Hmm.
for attendees, okay? Because lead scanners are typically on the phone for
Hmm.
sponsors. For an attendee, if you want to make it easy for people to connect with you, go to your LinkedIn on your phone, click the search bar. There's a little icon for the QR code in the top right corner. Take a
Okay.
screenshot of that. Set your QR code for your
Um,
LinkedIn as the lock screen on your phone. That way you don't have to wait to unlock your phone or you accidentally click the wrong numbers and it's embarrassing. All you literally do is pull your phone out, tap your screen. They pull out their camera, which typically people are get used to doing anyway at events, and they
mhm.
scan that and go on their day. So I would clear out all your connection requests. And then when you go to an event, you probably know anybody who sent you a connection request because they scanned that code was at the event.
That's awesome. Yeah, again, the cell phone is super important to have out there.
Yeah, bring portable chargers.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that might be the next tip in there of, what to buy before the event there, comfortable shoes, portable chargers, things like that. But awesome tip. I love that. Yeah, having that open and so it's easy because we've all typed in the wrong number or typed someone's name wrong into our phones, which is not cool either. But Mike, where can people find more information about this, about cold email? Where can they find you?
Yeah, the number one place is LinkedIn. To be honest, I'm not really on any other social media channels. I've only used LinkedIn. So yeah, you can reach out to me on there. You can send me an email. It's just mike@sasterinc.com. Happy to help. And yeah, I mean, I work with teams all the time, so happy to help people out wherever I can. And ultimately, I'll keep posting content that's useful. So if anybody has any ideas of what they would like to see, feel free to shoot them my way, and I'll see what I can provide.
Yeah, awesome. Keep up the great information about these in-person events because I know a lot of people will need it just to feel a bit calmer there. But thank you so much again, Mike. And thank you everyone for coming back to another episode of Shake Sales. We'll see you next time.